Hey, what's up guys, Riff here. So in this video, I'm going to be going over the latest and greatest crash out from the popular YouTuber Mujin, who has been facing a lot of criticism over the past couple of days due to his coverage of the Sykkuno situation and the crash outs Mujin has been having on social media when his reliability as a commentator has been questioned. Well, yesterday he had yet another crash out, and it is perhaps his greatest one yet. And he is simply doubling down on the situation and saying a whole host of things, and he's getting hit with multiple community notes that are proving he is outright lying in his, cope session. That was this tweet that he made yesterday, where not only did he have this care for victims out there and try to masquerade this whole thing as a way to protect all of the victims of Sykkuno's predatory behavior, but he also did so while flexing his view counts. Yeah, very strange strategy from him. So let's go over the basics of the situation. We have this popular streamer by the name of Sykkuno, who has been proven to be a serial cheater. And this all stems from a Google Doc dropped by this VTuber named Himomal. The tweet sharing this Google Doc has nearly 40 million views. Now in this Google Doc and the accompanying Discord call, it is proven he is a serial cheater. Okay, Sykkuno is a cheater, absolutely. But this label added here that calls him a dangerous predator is one that people were questioning. And Mujin, in his coverage where he used the Google Doc as his primary source, he also used the term predator to describe this individual. A lot of people thought that was completely out of bounds and possibly defamatory as well. And also, people started questioning the closeness of Mujin to the situation because he came out with the video within the same hour the Google Doc was released. Now, in the aftermath of this, people have looked through the Google Doc and Mujin's coverage, and the two VTubers involved with it, the two VTubers came forward with their story and their experience. They've been exposed as massive hypocrites and liars. Yes, they proved he was a serial cheater, that Sykkuno was using a lot of women, but these two have a lot of skeletons in their closets as well. And of course, that Discord call that was provided in Mujin's video was supposed to be a slam dunk. However, that backfired and basically presented a lot of contradicting claims that made the Google Doc look like it was filled with lies, and it made the two VTubers in question, the supposed victims, look even worse. And a lot of people looked at this situation and they asked, how did Mujin end up making such a stinker of a video? For some people out there, and a good number of people, they consider him the gold standard of drama coverage on the internet. Well, people started looking at his response to criticism because he is not taking it well. I guess years of not being questioned has given him an ego, so when he's finally getting pushback, he's not responding well. He did not respond well to XQC's comment, where XQC brought up a point made in the video talking about how it's predatory that such a big creator would talk to smaller creators, and of course Mujin would blame all of the criticism he's facing on people calling Sykkuno based, but that ignores a lot of the other things going on. The repeated use of the term predator in Mujin's video and in the Google Doc that many considered completely out of bounds and basically a way to sensationalize the Google Doc and the video. And also people question the closeness of Mujin to the situation because the author of the Google Doc considered Mujin a close friend. And some people like Powder, a VTuber, pointed these very two simple points out, saying that the word predator was misused, it was unreasonable, and that Mujin is not a reliable narrator. Now I can tell you this, Mujin did not like that one bit. He would proceed with an absolute crash out, not only throwing all kinds of pot shots at that VTuber, but also making a weird fantasy scenario where he's going to eventually make a video on this VTuber where she's not only getting exposed for being this bad content creator, but also for dating black guys. Weird stuff coming from Mujin that was completely unprompted. But people started to ask, because after that tweet, he went silent for a few days, and people were asking, where's Mujin? He's been awfully quiet. He got humiliated after posting that recent response, and then he went radio silent. What's going on? Well, this post was asked yesterday, mid-afternoon, and, well, we would get a very quick answer because just a few hours later, Mujin would make his next tweet. And this one, ladies and gentlemen, it's an absolute stinker. This is a terrible, terrible statement. It is filled with narcissism. This guy's ego is completely out of check. And I'll get into my full thoughts here, but let's just break this down part by part. So he begins by saying, some members of my community have reached out regarding a few concerns, and I want to make sure I properly address them before we fully move on from this topic. Look, I'm flattered that Himomo tweeted that she considers me a close friend, and I'm grateful for her trust. But the first time we spoke was on April 7th. So this narrative that the video made as a favor to anyone is simply false, which is a very, very odd thing to say, because if you actually start going through and looking at the public tweets made by Himomo, she stated here that they have been friends, and he's been one of the confidants for her in this entire situation. How long that situation is, your guess is really as good as mine, but clearly it contains some period of time. And then we have this one where she straight up says she and Mujin are close friends. So yeah, whether that's the truth or not, it doesn't look good. Because either, on the one hand, Mujin is very close to this Himomo person and he's kind of too close to the situation, he's biased, or, as he says in his statement, he barely knows this person and just met her a few days ago, but still trusted her to use her Google Doc as a primary source for his entire video, despite the fact it's filled with countless contradictions and flaws. And I just want to show this. The Himomo VTuber reposted his statement. Like, is this some kind of a humiliation fetish or something? Like, Mujin just threw you under the bus entirely. He basically said, be gone. I don't even know this person, and she's unreliable, despite the fact that he relied on her. But he's saying, like, oh, this is some rando who I was talking about. And the fact that she reposted that in support is crazy work. But anyways, he continues on by saying, the truth is, Sykkuno's serial cheating and manipulation was only the tip of the iceberg, and I was hoping the video would encourage the many others who have stayed quiet for years to finally find the courage to talk about their experiences. Unfortunately, with the current state of affairs, that doesn't seem like it'll happen anymore, even if they were somehow able to fit the image of a perfect victim. I don't blame them whatsoever. Instead, I can only wish them the best and hope that his ex, who was cheated on for 5 years, can find the peace that she deserves. Now, number one, when it comes to people stepping forward, yes, there were some people sharing experiences that proved this guy was a serial cheater, but nothing proved he was some sort of dangerous predator like Mujin and the Google Doc was trying to claim him as. In fact, the whole thing became a spectacle where a bunch of VTubers came out wanting attention, and if they ever had an interaction with this Sykkuno individual, they were sharing it. In fact, here were posts demonstrating the very weird power imbalance between the two, where Sykkuno simply DM'd them the word crab. It became an absolute spectacle, ladies and gentlemen. And then the video itself, right? Absolute joke. And really, based on his own words, was this like the appetizer? Was this like part one, where he was essentially coming out with this story from Himomo, and then he was hoping he would kind of fish for more victims who would have, you know, a better story, like more juicy content for him to farm? Because let me make this clear. I'm not going to mince words. He was farming content here. Okay, let's be honest with ourselves here. Okay, he wanted to farm a part 2. Okay, this was part 1. He was hoping it would encourage people to come forward and speak, and then he would make another follow-up video, hopefully with the, as he says, perfect victims. Well, guess what? This video that is, quite frankly, garbage has achieved the exact opposite. If there are people who had any sort of negative experience with Sykkuno that are maybe beyond just cheating, even like more serious stuff, they're not talking now. They're absolutely not talking now. And you know who's to blame for that? Mujin. Mujin and Himomo for making this entire situation. He didn't want to check on anything. He just dove into this head first, and he trusted everything she said. And now he's trying to play like he's sorry for the victim. Well, guess what? You put their experience. When I say the victim, let me back up. I mean the girlfriend who did nothing wrong. The actual girlfriend who was cheated on for 4 years by this guy. By the carousel of women this guy was juggling. Okay? He says he feels so sorry for her. Well, guess what? You made a public spectacle of this whole thing. Where yes, you did prove he was cheating on her. She already knew that. And you're exposing that to the public. But everything beyond that context is an absolute mess. And you've made a public spectacle out of it. You've made this messy. And now everyone's focusing on everything else. The unreliability of the Google Doc. The unreliability of all the people who are speaking out against him and contradicting themselves, or being outed as hypocrites and things like that. So to sit there and try to pretend like this is all about feeling some sense of justice for the girlfriend and wanting to do right by her, well, you did a pretty bad job of that. But this is the part that absolutely left me speechless when I first saw it. This is the last part. As for me, I'll continue making videos that millions of people enjoy, and when prompted, I'll still strive to do the right thing, even if it's not trendy, because that's just how I was raised, and it's simply who I am. That'll never change, no matter how many vultures try to desperately farm my name. Thank you for being the best community I could ever ask for, and I'll see you in the next video, whenever it is. Signing off, Mujin. Yeah, this is how bro felt writing that last part. Absolutely embarrassing, diabolical levels of narcissism. Yeah, as for me, I'll continue making videos that millions of people enjoy. This guy put on some heart-wrenching soliloquy about, oh, I just want to help out all these victims, and then ends it by flexing his view count. Like, total narcissist. Like, again, this guy's ego, I guess, went unchecked for years, right? Like, nobody was really ever questioning his narratives. And the second he gets pushed back on anything, he flips out and tries to flex his views. Like, that's more important than anything else. Totally embarrassing. Totally embarrassing stuff. And he's talking about his values and how he wants to do right. Seems interesting for a post where he locked the replies. You can't even reply to this. I mean, how many times have we seen this happen? Someone talking about accountability and that they do the right thing and that's their goal. And they say it in a post where the replies are locked and you have to quote it to even respond. And I bet you if he could restrict who could quote it, he would have done that as well. Now, this statement is an absolute stinker, ladies and gentlemen. It is bad for so many reasons. And there's a very good reason why. There's multiple community notes, okay? I have seen multiple variations of community notes successfully applied to his tweet because he is lying about so many things. And if you go back to what he actually said, let me give you the translation. Let me translate what he's saying here and what's really going on. Let's not mince words, okay? So basically, he comes out with this hit piece, right, that gets 2 million views where he uses this Google Doc as the primary source for everything, right? Where the goal is to not only prove Sykkuno is a cheater, but to also show that he is a dangerous predator, right? And when he's questioned for promoting that label, the Google Doc, and also having a weird crash out on Twitter over powder, he writes this and pretends like all the backlash, all the noise is just concern coming from his community that is a bit confused about what's going on. And then he immediately moves into a pity party where he's feeling like so sorry for himself because he's the hero. He was just trying to help out these victims. He was doing everything he could, and it just didn't pan out. He just wanted to give a voice to all these silent people out there who are hurting. But then he says the video was just the tip of the iceberg, and that bothers me, okay? He knows exactly what he was doing here. He wanted to make this like a series, like, right? He's coming out with this one, and then he's sitting there hoping, man, maybe this will make more people speak out. The perfect victims, as he describes them, which, you know, is a very interesting phrase he used, but he was fishing for more people to farm for content. That is what he's doing. I mean, you can disagree. Feel free. But I think his intentions are very clear here. And if his goal was to make more people to come out and share their experiences, well, guess what, buddy? You ruined it. You absolutely ruined it. You ruined it by using that Google Doc as a primary source. You ruined it by not checking it. You ruined it by going forward and making a spectacle out of all this. You ruined it by crashing out on Twitter. Anyone who has any real grievance with this Sykkuno person is going to be a lot more hesitant to come out now than they were before your video ever came out. And then there's the sort of blame game where he's blaming the current state of affairs for ruining all of this again. The current state of affairs is because of you, and that's why people are not going to come forward and speak out, or at least they're going to be a lot more hesitant. And he also says he wants to do the right thing while blocking replies and trying to limit any chance for people to criticize him within his power. Of course, he's ignoring the criticism overall. He's blaming everyone else. He's mocking the vultures. You know, he's trying to basically paint anyone who's daring to criticize him as a vulture. You know, they're just farming him for content. And, well, he ends it by flexing his view count. I mean, I cannot imagine a more disingenuous and ridiculous way to end it, right? He does all of this virtue signaling, all of this misdirection, and he still feels the need to end by flexing his view count and then just leaving, just dipping. Like, ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, people can quote this, and people were, and they had a lot to say. This person saying, I'll be real. Let's just say Sykkuno has actual skeletons in his closet. You'd be largely responsible for why that closet will likely remain closed. You misjudged how people would react to this. You can't judge the well that you poisoned. I also want to point out here that there's an interesting lack of phrases. There's no phrase like predator used in this description anymore. And as pointed out by Legal Mindset in his breakdown of this situation, this use of predator, take this out of your lexicon, okay? Take this out of your vocabulary. This is not something you should just be throwing around willy-nilly. This is a defamatory statement possibly, right? When you're using this term predator, I don't care what the actually sort of definition people are pulling out here. We know that this was used to sensationalize everything going on, and you're putting yourself in some legal hot water. And of course, well, as pointed out here, bro's about to get sued. Of course, that's a possibility. And he got friend-zoned. And that's interesting to point out here because the memes are coming out. This user saying, sum up of the drama this week, where Mujin's down below. He's not making his way there, no matter what route he's going, I guess. Here's another quote saying, he says he made a 1-hour video within 3 days of knowing her, so either he knew nothing about her and still made it, or he's lying. Tough choice. Like I said earlier, that is the only 2 routes this could go. He's either trusting someone he just met and completely messed it up, or he's lying. That's it. There's only 2 routes. He was better off saying nothing. And again, people are pointing out, He locked the replies to stop himself from getting owned and ratioed again, because his last crash out a few days ago, he got ratioed into oblivion in the replies. So this time, he made sure to lock the replies to prevent that, but yeah, people are still quoting. Here's another quote that says, are we not addressing the powder post? We're just leaving that out there. Say what you want on YouTube, I don't care, but this will bite your butt in the future if you don't course correct properly. Yeah, just gonna say those very weird things about powder, not only the pot shots and the low blows about kind of like, you know, her ability and her success as a content creator, but adding in the weird comments as well. We're just gonna like move past that without addressing it. Seems very odd. But Banana Juju here makes a very good point. Mujin farms names for his videos, gets mad for being farmed for bad takes. It's the circle of life. It's the wheel of fortune. Yeah, if you're going to be someone who covers internet drama and talks about other people and criticizes them, it's going to happen to you. It happens to me. It happens to a lot of other people who do what we do. And like, this is the first time Mujin's faced like a real set of backlash, and he's handled it absolutely horribly. It seems like Twitter might be his greatest enemy. Like, this guy might want to reconsider ever responding publicly to backlash, because he's completely shot himself in the foot. It is not a good situation. His coverage here was not good, no matter what you believe in his statement. Even if you believe everything he's saying, it's still a terrible look. But I think people are smarter than what he's trying to sell, and they're not buying it, and they know that this was a mess for him and has caused a lot of issues. But that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm uploading daily over here, also streaming on YouTube. I'm sure I'll be streaming the day this video is going live and in the coming days as well. That's the new thing for me. I'm streaming on YouTube regularly, so if you are interested in that, I would love to see you there. And yeah, that's going to do it for this video. I'll see you guys next time.